The IS-4 is a Russian Tier 10 tactry heavy tank, and if I had a time machine to go back 2-3 years, the IS-4 and the E5 were really the only heavies you would see played in comp, maybe the occasional 215B or IS-7, but for the most part, the IS-4 was used in spams. And the reason was because it was just so good at everything. Not only was it not half bad at side scraping, but it carried 2,800 hit points, which meant you could take a beating and not really care, especially because your frontal armor was great. The rear armor on this tank is incredibly troll, especially where the track wheel is, and it's got one of the most reliable guns in the game, down to the fact that it sacrifices a bit of alpha for accuracy and penetration. The IS-4 is just a stalwart. It can do almost everything that you need it to. Now, unfortunately, the IS-4 received a nerf not too long ago, maybe about a year and a half ago, which nerfed its hit point pool by about 200, and it also nerfed its traverse speed by about, I would say, 15%. And not only that, but the IS-7 got PBR graphics. The thing that always baffles me about wargaming is that they said when it got PBR, quote-unquote, the IS-7 armor will not be changing. And then they gave the IS-7 side armor 35mm of more protection, and they gave its front more armor. I really didn't understand that by any means, but because of that, the IS-7 became basically the newer and better Tier 10 heavy tank because it had the same hit points as the IS-4, and the IS-7 went faster, and it has better armor. I mean, why wouldn't you pick the IS-7? Its real only downside is that its gun has a bit worse accuracy, and its premium pen is quite poor. But, yeah, it doesn't really matter when you can bounce half the shells fired at you. But it seems like the IS-4, in Update 9.1, might just be making a comeback. First of all, if we take a look at its hit point pool, it's going to be sitting at over 2,800 once again. That was one of the biggest things that got ruined from the tank originally. That is now coming back. That's going to be great. It's going to make it way more effective on the battlefield. If you're running 3 or 4 of these on a comp battle, your team's going to have an extra 800, 700 hit points. I mean, that's going to be great. As well, the IS-4 is getting an armor buff. If we take a look on Armor Inspector, this hatch here on the front is a pretty big weak spot. Well, next update, that's going to be buffed, and yeah, that's going to be quite hard for any standard ammunition to penetrate. But even better than that is the side armor. This side slot here is going to be buffed by 50mm, which is going to make it basically impenetrable. This side slot has been a weakness of the IS-4 since it has come into the game. Everybody that plays comp, and really any experienced player, knows that the IS-4 can be penetrated when it is side scraping due to that weak spot. When it gets 50 more millimeters there, yeah, it's not going to be a weak spot anymore, and you're not going to be able to overmatch that plate. The reason it's so weak is due to 3 calibers rule. If we take a look, it is just an incredibly weak plate. Well, I'm kind of clicking the tracks here, unfortunately, but you can see it's only like a 50mm plate. It's really weak. So if it gets buffed by 50mm at the angle that it's sitting at, you're really going to have no chance of penetrating that, which is great. I mean, I definitely agree. I feel like the IS-4 should be able to side scrape at least very well, and seems like we're going to get that next update. Now, other changes to note for the IS-4, it is losing on movement dispersion, and I will say that is actually one of the really nice things about the IS-4 is its on movement dispersion. It's really, really accurate on the move, so it's going to lose a bit of that, but I'm actually fine with that. I feel like this vehicle's not supposed to have the on movement dispersion. It's supposed to be more of a Russian-esque heavy where it sacrifices gun handling for the overall survivability and strong brute force capabilities. So, let's close 9.1, and now we are in 9.0. Let's compare the IS-4's hit point pool. I'm sitting at 2650, so as you can see, it's going to gain about 150 hit points in total, and that's actually going to be quite a big difference. Let's get into a battle, see what the IS-4 can do. Now, I gotta be honest, I still think the IS-4 is an amazing tank now, and I think it'll be even better next update. But do I think it's going to take over on the comp scene? Maybe. That's really the best answer I can give. I've obviously been spending a lot more time in comp throughout the past years and couple months in Blitz. I mean, this season alone, I'm helping call for a comp team. And when it comes to making decisions on what vehicles to use, it's always a tricky one. Do you want to follow the meta and use the exact tanks that everybody else is using, this meta being the Type 71, or do you want to go a little bit off meta and use other tanks? And that's the real question for a vehicle like the IS-4, is this tank going to get enough of a buff so that it's going to be used over that tank right behind me, the Type 71? I don't think so. The Type 71 not only has basically the same DPM, but it's got better mobility than the IS-4. It's got a better gun than the IS-4 in most regards. And the Type 71, I mean, I would say it's got better frontal armor and side armor. Sure, might not be as good after it gets its buff, but yeah, that's the real problem with the IS-4 right now, is that it's just kind of maybe not as good as the Type 71 even after its buff, which will obviously be a pretty big issue if you wanted to use this vehicle in comp. So let's see if we can get a shell into this E100 turret. Now I will say, the gun on the IS-4 with its ridiculous heat pen is still amazing. The ability to just butter through enemy armor with no problem whatsoever is pretty insane. So you can see here, we've already tapped 600 hit points off of that enemy E100, and yeah, he's really not enjoying that. Now to be fair, that E100 does not really know good positioning for his tank. He kind of put it in a poor spot, but with that, we've already been able to deal 1,500 damage in this battle, and we're not stopping anytime soon. This enemy E100 is kind of making a fool of himself because now he's driving up into the front line. That's one tap, but oh, what are you doing there, Type 71, dude? You were doing really well until you did that and exposed your entire armor profile to his tank. But hey, that's another 400 damage shot. We just got into the E100, and our Type 71 poked his rear again. I don't know why he's doing that. Either way, we're going to get another tap into this vehicle, and yeah, this is really what the IS-4 is just great at doing, is making a fool out of armor. It has so much pen, so much survivability that a vehicle like the E100 really just stands no chance compared to an IS-4 gun. Now we got the grill over here. It does get a shell into my 92E1, but I'm not too worried. Even if the 92 low rolls, that's exactly what I was going to do right there. Get a little bit of a ram and finish off the enemy. So we're going to try and squeeze past this grill. There you go. Just able to make our way through and continue on towards the battlefield. So we got an IS-7 off to the side. I don't really care if I get shot, to be honest. We're already over 4,000 damage, and this is, again, just what the IS-4 is known at doing, is not really caring. So let's reload. Let's get a nice tap into the Kampfpanzer. That guy's dead. We got the 50 TP and as well a Sheridan all the way off to the other side of the map. Can we HE the 50 anywhere? No, but I guess that's fine. We got a 525 max roll, so I'd take that just as high. So let's see. IS-8, actually everybody fired, so I'm going to be able to finish off the 50 TP. There you go. And all that's left is a Sheridan across the map. This game really showcased everything you'd ever need to know about the IS-4. Why it's such a capable tank. Its gun penetrates everything. It's got enough DPM even with Cali to deal with most of its opponents. And yeah, I mean, that's really just the IS-4 in a nutshell. Now sure, we missed that shell, but I did have to snap that. So I just think that this tank will always be one of my more preferred tier 10 heavies, down to the fact that it can do everything so darn well. So the Sheridan looks like the dude's going to be running across here. I'm going to raise my tank up and fire. Unfortunately, because like all of our team was down that alleyway, I couldn't really get the shell out, but that's fine. With the Sheridan running, I'm not even going to bother. He's going to die in a moment to either the 4005 or the M6. Yo. Well, maybe not. Eventually, maybe. Oh my god. There you go. Sheridan does get cleared. So this battle, we were able to deal easily over 5,000 damage, around 5,300. I don't think this will be an ace or anything because we really didn't do anything insane, but it just showcased everything the IS-4, as I said before, does. It's got the pen, it's got enough mobility, armor, and it actually was an ace, surprising to me. Alright, but there you go. I mean, it's just the IS-4. I've always thought this tank is great, even after its nerf, and judging that Wargaming is patching up the driver's hatch in the front and the side weak spot, yeah, I really don't see this vehicle being bad in any way next update. I mean, sure, it's losing a bit of accuracy, but who cares? IS-4 is going to be an amazing tank, more than it already is. Hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you'd like to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.